Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Reed.
How you doing there, brother?
I'm doing great, and we'll also be joined by Michael Hall. He had a little pre-existing situation going down, and he's going to be joining us at any time now whenever he gets home. But we have a great podcast set up for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about the latest and greatest news regarding the Redskins, and then we're going to talk about some fantasy football, and then a little teaser game that we had that Pro Football Focus put out, and I wanted to kind of go down that path of breaking down their kind of challenge there because I thought it was a lot of fun. So first things first, though, let's get into this. Parker Hamlet, the guest that we have had on, he's the Redskins Brawl host. He has Garrett Hudson on his crew, and Garrett Hudson's a former Redskins tight end, and he recalled a time where he was talking to Ryan Anderson, and he said, Ryan, why do you go so hard? Why do you play so hard? And he said, if I'm not playing this, if I can remember my grandkids' names, I didn't play the game right. That is an insane thing to hear, Reed. So let me get your opinion on that because I was blown away.
Well, yeah. First of all, I mean that's scary. It just with what we know about CTE, that's just like, damn. Oh my god. But that honestly, as messed up as this may be, that's the kind of guy I want on my team, especially in my linebacking core.
Scott
like,
McLuhan.
Throwback.
Scott McLuhan pitched a tent.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a throwback linebacker. You hear all these stories about Dick Buckets and those guys playing tackle football on gravel. Ryan Anderson would be in there with them. Like he's just one of those people. He doesn't care. He wants to just get the job done. And I'm happy that he's on our team. And the guy's got a nonstop motor. Like I said, I think he is a perfect linebacker, throwback linebacker, especially in a 4-3 on that strong side. I know that there's been a lot of trade talk for him. It's a little bit concerning that he doesn't have his own health in the best interest, but hey, as long as he's on my team, I'm okay with it.
Right, and but a lot of credit to him for being playing the game that way, because a lot of people will say, the game is not as violent as it once was. It's not like it used to be. But I want to give a lot of credit to the Redskins Brawl and Parker Hamlet. This was national news. A lot of credit to those guys. They work really hard and they have a great product. And Parker Hamlet is a great guy, and I'm glad that this happened to him. And they're blowing up and getting national news because they obviously deserve it. This is big news.
They got retweeted by Barstool and stuff. So good for you, Parker.
I mean, they have articles being written on them by Yahoo.
I didn't even know
Barstool.
Parker was the one who made that. When I sent you guys that quote, I remember seeing the Ryan Anderson thing on Bleacher Report. I sent it to you guys and my brother, and then later on, you're like, Parker's the one who it was on their show that Garrett Hudson revealed that. And I was like, oh my God, good for you, Parker.
Yeah. And it's crazy to hear Ryan Anderson say that because with all of the hysteria with CTE, getting new helmets, getting all of this, it's all for the player safety. And then you hear a player's quote saying that he doesn't really care about that. That kind of throws a wrench into the kind of discussions between the union and the NFL. So do you think there's going to be any backlash with that?
I don't think so. I mean, everybody knows that football is a violent game. It's been a violent game our entire life. It is, like I said, it is concerning. But I think that Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera probably love to hear that. I don't think that his grandkids are going to like to hear that when he goes through all 5 of their names before he gets to the right one.
Right. His mom
Bradley,
definitely
Ryan,
does
Jason
not.
Johnson, Todd, come here. What's your name?
He's like, that's none of our names. What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's right. I mean, my dad used to do that all the time whenever he would yell at us. He'd be like,
my mom too.
Andrew, Brian, Nick, Kate, Michael. And I would be like, why am I last? Why did you think my name was Kate? What is going on here?
That says a lot about you, Reed. It says a lot about you. But a lot of credit to Ryan Anderson because the way he plays the game is the way you want it to happen. And look, I know last week I said I wanted the Redskins to trade Ryan Anderson, but after hearing that quote, it kind of makes me think for a second with that strong side linebacker position. But look, I think that's picked up by Thomas Davis, and that's why I think there's no other thing about it. I think they do need to walk away from him, at least trade him, just because I just don't think he's going to get that much playing time. I know obviously with injuries, possibilities, and all that, but if Ryan Anderson is I don't want the Redskins to trade him just to trade him. If he's like a wanted commodity, if there's teams actively wanting him, then I think they should pull the trigger. But I don't think it's something where they're like, oh yeah, we have to get rid of Ryan Anderson. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like we talked about last week, it really depends on the offer. I mean, is a 5th round pick going to come in here and next year and produce what Ryan Anderson could? But then again, there's also no guarantee that Ryan Anderson's going to be here after this year. So you might as well get a 5th-round pick for it. Like I said, I personally want to see what Ryan Anderson can do in this system, especially, like I've said, I love him as a 3-4 linebacker. I'm sorry, 4-3 linebacker, but I completely understand now after you talked about it last week why we would get rid of him, and it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let me go next to the Redskins media night. Last night they had Kay Adams from NFL Network come on. A lot of star-studded people there, and Ron Rivera had some questionable things that he said. And the one thing he said is he was equating Chase Young to Von Miller and Khalil Mack already. Or was it Khalil Mack? I don't think it was Khalil Mack. It was Von Miller and it was Von Miller and Julius Peppers is what he said.
Jack Del Rio was talking about that too.
Yeah. And so, look, if Ron Rivera is saying that, because Ron Rivera is not the type of dude that just blows smoke up somebody's rear end. You know what I mean? Right. So the fact that Ron Rivera is saying this just speaks volumes about how much confidence he has in Chase Young. And the fact that we are adding that to this defensive rotation, I mean, my goodness, this team is going to be good.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like you said, the fact that Ron Rivera, who knows these players well, who knows especially the defensive side of the ball. I mean, if you want to talk about a coach who knows defensive players.
Jeez, dude, your internet sucks. Look how slow your face is moving. Dude, you've been saying this word for 5-7 seconds now. You can't even get through it. So I'm going to... What is happening with your internet, dude? You are destroying right now. There you are.
I have full service right now.
Oh, that was trippy. So you were like, so can you restate everything you just said?
Yeah. Obviously, Ron Rivera knows his defensive players. He knows what it takes. He knows talent at that position of linebacker, defensive end, what have you. He's very smart when it comes to that. And him comparing him to a mini version of Julius Peppers, because that's who Chase Young has been compared to the entire pre-draft process. So I think it just speaks volumes how good he can be. And I mean, also just getting into how weird it is that Chase Young was the number 2 pick, just like Julius Peppers was, just like Von Miller was, it's weird, but hey, I'll take it.
Yeah. And one of the things that came across the notification bar, especially from Michael Hall, who let us know about this, Peyton Manning was close to signing with the Redskins. It was between the Redskins and the Broncos. So let's go down an imaginary path right now, Reed. If the Redskins do land Peyton before that 2012 season, where do you think the Redskins end up?
I think they end up... So let's see. That was before 2012, correct?
Remember, you have to remember, the defense was not that good. The offense, RG3's offense, carried that team to the playoffs. So we have to take that into consideration.
Right. That's difficult because obviously then we wouldn't have traded up for RG3, I would imagine. But as good as I don't think he would have had the same success in DC that he had in Denver, because I just don't see Dan Snyder and co letting him kind of mold the team in his eyes the way that he sees fit, like they did in Denver. They kind of let him just run that offense. They kind of let him do his own thing. They had a fantastic defense out there in Denver. And I just don't see that happening in DC, but it would have been fun to watch him play Eli twice a year.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is if the Redskins don't give up all of those picks to the Rams, there is a very good chance that the Redskins could have drafted Luke Kuechly in that first round. And so you imagine they're already retooling that defensive front, and they have Peyton Manning at the helm, which it doesn't, at that time in 2012, it didn't matter who was on offense for Peyton. They were scoring points, and a lot of them, just because it was Peyton. And so I think if the Redskins were able to do that, if they were able to bring in Peyton, I mean, my goodness, this team could have been a lot better than the 2012 team, which is saying 100%. A lot.
Right. Yeah, they definitely could have been better. Would they have
combined with Kyle Shanahan's offense?
Right. That's scary to think about, and especially Pierre Garçon. Peyton Manning was familiar with Pierre Garçon. His first year there in DC was in 2012. And then, of course, Santana Moss. A year or so later, then they had Sean Jackson. And just imagine Peyton throwing the ball to those guys.
Yeah, and then we wouldn't have the whole RG3 versus Kirk Cousins debate, and then we wouldn't have this whole Kirk Cousins franchise tag issue.
Maybe the Shanahan still decide to draft Kirk. Kirk sits behind Peyton and learns for a while, and then comes in, and Who knows? Maybe it's a different story.
The what if game goes on forever. But one thing I wanted to, my wife and I, we started watching this new show. Have you heard of it? It's called The Floor is Lava.
No, but there's a video game about it that Nikki always played. It was so funny, and it was like actually the floor was lava, so it was kind of tight in the game. Is this anything like that? Is it like legit? Like
yeah, it's a
lava,
legit.
do people die?
No. So it's like Ninja Warrior, but it's like water, but they colored the water to look like lava. So like if somebody's like foot goes in the water, like if both their feet go in the water, like they're said like, yo, you're done. You got to fall in the water. Like you can't climb out, you know?
Yeah,
we have to imagine this is lava. But the whole show, look, it's entertaining, but it's a bunch of unathletic people doing a semi-athletic thing, and that's the entertaining part. Just because you're sitting here thinking like, dude, it's not that hard to jump 3 feet. You know?
It's on Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. The reason why we saw it, because like, you know how like Netflix has like their top 10 shows like at the very top.
I saw it on there. Yeah, I just haven't watched it.
Yeah, because we never pick up new shows, and so we were like, hey, we'll give this a try, and it's kind of lame just because of seeing the people do like really dumb things. Like there was there's one thing set up where it's like a kitchen, and then there's like a wood fire stove, and so it's like this big brick oven, and so these dudes, like, there's like a ledge on it, and so these dudes like had a whole it was a not a chimney but a fireplace, and so the fireplace like had an overhang, so like literally they were hanging off and holding on with their fingertips, and so like this dude like opened up one of the doors, and his friend decided that he wanted to come over there and join him. And that was like the worst spot in the whole place to be. Mm-hmm. And they both ended up going into the water right after. It's just like, why are people so stupid?
What are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing? The one thing I've never understood, if the floor was really lava, you wouldn't be able to do shit because it would burn the legs of the table, so the table would fall into, you know? So that's just a plot hole right there that I just thought of, so...
It's just funny that like somebody took like their childhood game and turned it into a TV show.
That is pretty tight. I'm gonna start watching that tonight.
Dude, it is so lame watching some of these guys. I mean, I'm talking like accountants and stuff, and you see them like freaking out over having to jump 3 feet. Like, I don't know if I could do it, man. Like, come on, dude. What are you doing here?
I'm gonna have to watch that. I feel like I would be a good candidate for that show.
Right, you would be perfect for that show. You got the personality for it. Now, speaking of personality, Burrows, the host of the Redskins Tweet Team podcast, he sent us in a question this week, and it's actually a really good question. He said, who doesn't make the cut at running back, who we think isn't going to be on the starting roster going against Philly? Now, we do have to take into account that the NFL did expand the NFL starting roster on game days. They're allowing more people. It's more than 53 now, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Is it 60 now? You don't know? I don't even think you can hear me. But right now, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say it's Bryce Love. And I'm sorry I have to say that because the Redskins just went and signed J.D. McKissick, who is a pass-catching running back. So that goes into Scott Turner's kind of mindset there and his ideology. So I think J.D. McKissick fits in well with this organization. I don't know why they would sign him and then cut him immediately. Then Darius Geis is just way too talented for them to walk away from. And then right after that, they just drafted Antonio Gibson. He is going to get the rock a lot, and he is going to be targeted a lot. And then we have Adrian Peterson. Which one of those five can we sit here and legitimately say has a chance not to be on this football team? And I know it ruffles everyone's feathers when we say Adrian Peterson. I get it. I don't think it's going to be AP. I think it's Bryce Love. Because Bryce Love, I understand, was the backup to Christian McCaffrey, did play with Christian McCaffrey. But the fact is that I just feel like he's the one person here that is on the outside looking in. There's nobody that's married to him. They didn't draft him, you know, and he's the one guy that's on the outside of the circle looking in my opinion. So, Reed, let me ask your opinion. Which one of these five running backs do you not see making the roster?
Like you said, I would go with Bryce Love, just because of the injury concerns and the fact that they're not married to him, like you said. But also, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with McKissick now that, you know, they drafted in Antonio Gibson. Do they can kind of line up all over the place, which is what a lot of people assumed they were going to be doing with McKissick. But do they want to keep him and allow that to create mismatches with both running backs that can split out wide? You never know what's going to happen with them. And I read an article about how I forget who the writer was, but how he could honestly see Darius Geis being cut because of the way that he fits and with his injury concerns and the fact that they didn't draft him. They're not married to him. I don't see that happening. I think Darius Geis is just too talented, as we've seen when he's been healthy. And I just think him and Adrian Peterson make such a fantastic duo. But I think it's got to be Bryce Love or possibly J.D. McKissick, I would imagine.
Yeah, I just don't think it's J.D. McKissick, only because they just signed him, and he kind of fits in with that pass-catching mold of Scott Turner's offense, which leads into what we were going to talk about later on, and that was, I saw a tweet come across Twitter earlier, and I forget the guy's name. I'm sorry, I should know it, but he said, in the past 3 seasons, in Norv and Scott Turner's offense, the running back has led the league in targets for 3 straight seasons. I think that is immediately J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson. There is a reason why Antonio Gibson is listed as a running back / wide receiver. That being said, that's why I know Bryce Love is a pass-catching kind of running back, but I just don't see him fitting in it. I think they give the nod to J.D. McKissick.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would imagine, unless Bryce Love comes out and like absolutely tears it up during camp and the preseason. But I don't see that happening. But somebody to keep an eye on. He never caught many passes in college, but he's always claimed that he has had hands. He's always swore up and down that he can catch the ball, and he actually did a pretty good job of it last year, and that's Darius Geis. Now, do I think that he'll have more targets than Antonio Gibson? No. I don't think he'll have more than Gibson or McKissick, but I could see Darius Geis being very sneaky and picking up a good amount of receptions as well. But I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson. I think that there's a reason that they picked him so highly in the 3rd round. And if he's listed as a running back, hell, they might even – I guess his number's 24, so he's technically more so a running back than he is a wide receiver. But I just think that they're going to use that chess piece as often as they can. If he's not ready, then it's going to be J.D. McKissick.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I do. And one thing I wanted to discuss with you and kind of brainstorm with you, who are the captains going to be for this season? Usually there's 3, 1 special teams, 1 defensive, and 1 offensive. And so for defense, I think we're going to have to go at Landon again if it's not Jonathan Allen, obviously, or Ryan Kerrigan. But for offense, it's got to be Terry, right?
I would go with Adrian Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
I just think he's such a good locker room guy. But yeah,
I mean, a great one.
Right, and I would like to see maybe Brandon Sheriff step up and be the leader of that offensive line. Will he? I mean, he definitely is the most talented player on that O-line, him and Morgan Moses, but I don't know if he will take that step. So I would say Adrian Peterson, just because I see him as more of somebody who the guys look up to. I still think Terry McLaurin's such a young player that it might be hard for him. But then obviously on special teams, you got to go with the best player on the team, Tress Way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, Tress Way has literally been the only baller from last season when you think about it. I mean, he was snuffed out of the Pro Bowl. He should have made the Pro Bowl.
I think he ended up being an injury replacement for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he actually played in it. But he was the best. He was arguably the best punter in the NFL last year. Tress Way played fantastic. Are you drinking a Dunkin' coffee too?
Yeah, I am. I'm a big girl.
So is Dad.
I love Dunkin' iced coffee by far. It absolutely
so do I.
gets me sized. Now, 2 things that actually we did not discuss about, Reed, that happened. The George Preston Marshall statue came down last week in the midst of all the racial tension and everything. This was a long time removed.
Yeah.
Like, this should have happened a long time ago. And I know, obviously, Snyder has nothing to do with RFK Stadium. He can't go in there and do anything. But I did like how they took out the statue before the mob did. They hired, like, an actual company to come in with a crane and take it out. So I want to go to you, Reed. I want to ask you your opinion on this. Did you agree with that move?
Yeah. I'm happy that it got torn down. I'm associated with him really anymore. I mean, after all the things that you've read about him, he's just not somebody that you want to be associated with. And as sad as that is, good riddance. He'll be gone. And also, the Panthers tore down their old owner's statue as well. The other, I think that was about a week or 2 ago. So
why did he have a statue? What the hell did he do?
He probably bought the statue in the stadium. He's like, we're putting this right here. And the statue was like him and a panther on each side of him. So like you should just erect one of Cam or Luke Kuechly and put them, or Julius Peppers, and just have them, or Coach Ron.
It should be Julius Peppers, if we're being honest. I mean, the dude did come back and finish his career in Carolina.
Steve Smith. Make that a 5'8" statue.
But Steve Smith did end on bad terms. Do you remember what he said? Do you remember what he said about them going to play Carolina and them about mowing his lawn?
Yeah, Steve Smith is one of the funniest human beings in the world, especially when they have him on like those NFL live shows and stuff. Steve Smith does not care about anybody.
No, he's so funny. He's one of my favorite sideline reporters. Just because when he's talking to another NFL player, they're just talking ball and they're having fun. I love Steve Smith for that. But the George Preston Marshalls statue, I've said for years, Mike, and you know this. I don't want to change the name. I don't. But I've said on numerous occasions, if the Redskins, if they had to separate themselves from George Preston Marshall, I would be okay with the name change, because I just don't want any connection with that guy. Because this is a predominantly African-American fan base. This is the first African-American QB to win a Super Bowl. And this is all against George Preston Marshall's wishes. So there should be no connection whatsoever with the Redskins. This took too long to happen. And why the hell did George Preston Marshall have a section of seats named after him in FedEx Field?
I don't know, but did they change that yet?
I think they did. I think they renamed it after, which was going to be my next topic, was Bobby Mitchell.
Okay, good, because that's disgusting. George Preston Marshall, for those of you who haven't really looked into some of the things that he said and what he believed, just Google it. It's pretty disgusting that people like actually thought like that. And that's, that's what happens when you grow up in a time before you let black people play sports with you, because, now they're breaking all the records. He would be fucking crying right now watching this, and we would all be laughing at him and be like, ha 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 ha, better than you are at everything.
Right. I'm glad that Doug Williams winning that Super Bowl probably made GPM turn over in his grave, which I'm very happy for, because that dude obviously was not a very good dude. I forget what that movie was called about the NFL running back that ended up getting cancer, I believe. He was one of the best running backs ever. He went to Syracuse after Jim Brown. There was a movie made after him. It was the running back after Jim Brown. Like Jim Brown mentored him in the NFL. But he played like 1 or 2 seasons, and like he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. And in that movie, they had someone play George Preston Marshall, and he says to the guy, no African American player will be drafted to the Redskins as long as I'm the owner or whatever. And I saw that and I was like, wait, what? Like I had no idea until I saw that movie.
Christ, that's disgusting, and thank God they removed the statue. It should have happened a long time ago, like you said, but at least it's happening now. Progress is all you can hope for.
Yeah, and I'm glad that he finally, all of his history has been erased somewhat here, obviously on the outside with that statue. I got nothing wrong with it. I'm glad that it was done the right way with the actual crane and everything done, instead of just tearing it down and spray painting all over it, which... If any of the statues in DC deserve to be torn down and spray painted, it's George Preston Marshall's. That's the one that wasn't.
100% agree.
So you guys are on the wrong path here, guys. Wrong.
Yeah, don't agree with the Teddy Roosevelt one, but the George Preston Marshall one, that's okay.
Yeah, Ulysses S. Grant. What are you guys doing?
The George Washington ones that people are talking about tearing down is funny to me, because George, apparently I didn't know this. I researched it.
I can't.
Slaves, and George Washington wasn't a big slaver. Like apparently his wife Martha Washington was a huge slaver. So George Washington's dying wish was to set his slaves free, which is cool. That I didn't know that, but it's disgusting that his wife was the one who wouldn't let him do it while he was alive.
Right, and God, that's so disgusting. But the one church. The one church is St. John's Church in D.C. that they lit on fire and then they spray painted the other night. Do you know that that's the church that Abraham Lincoln went to and prayed at every single night when they were fighting the Confederates during the war? He prayed for victory every night in that church, and they defaced it and everything. Like, what are we doing here, guys?
Right. Jesus.
Like, I thought Abraham Lincoln was one of the good guys. Oh, man.
Yeah, the ultimate good guy.
Right, the ultimate good guy. He's like literally, he's America, like in a nutshell. Legit. But let's get into some fantasy talk, because look, dude, the time is now. Fantasy's heating up. Our fantasy league is booked up, and that's all that we have right now until training camp starts. So, Reed, I want to talk to you because there was actually one person I saw. I did an ESPN mock draft yesterday, and I saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Do you know where he's ranked right now in ESPN?
Is it top 10?
He's in the second or third round right now. Like, he's right around James Conner, which is very, very surprising to me. I thought that he would be in the 6th to 7th round range. I did not think that he was going to be in the second or third.
I think it makes sense just with how talented he is. And I mean, being a first-round running back for the defending Super Bowl champions and just the way that his skill set.
Well, let me explain that better. I'm surprised that so early now he's already a second or third projected. You know, like closer to the season, knowing that he's getting the number one rep, seeing in the preseason games, that would make sense that he jump up. You know what I mean? But for right now, I just feel like that's crazy.
Camps or anything.
Right.
Yeah, that now when you put it like that, that's true. But yeah, I think it just goes to show you how talented he is, and really how talented Andy Reid is. And Eric Bieniemy, however you pronounce it, how talented they are, how good they are with running backs. You know,
so and it says a lot because like we said earlier about Scott Turner and Norv Turner's offensive running backs. Andy Reid's running backs every year finish top 5 in fantasy for PPR formats. Right. And there's a good reason for that. It's because Andy Reid is so good at getting his running backs open. Dude, I think your Brian Westbrook comparison was spot on to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, there's no other you and Hall both said that is such a good comparison. And if he can even be half of Brian Westbrook, I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. Brian Westbrook was a terror to play in Philadelphia.
Dude, how many years he tore us up, dude.
I know. I used to get excited playing Tiki Barber because he knew Tiki Barber would fumble about 5 times a game. But then Brian Westbrook was just like, God damn it.
So one thing with fantasy I wanted to ask you about was the wide receiver position. I think is very messed up right now. It's all over the place. They have Juju Smith-Schuster and T.Y. Hilton at 38th and 39, and then Odell following them at 40. Before them, at 28, they have A.J. Brown, DJ Moore at 27, DJ Chark at 29, and Cortland Sutton at 30, and Allen Robinson at 31. I think that's flip-flop. I think Juju's going to have a big, big year, and he's going to have the second to first round type of capability there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think Juju will definitely have a bounce back year, but of course it all depends on Ben Roethlisberger. I know last year it was tough for him being in his first year without Antonio Brown, and then Ben Roethlisberger went down with injuries, so it really kind of depends on the team around him. But yeah, if Ben Roethlisberger stays healthy, I expect him to have another really big year.
Yeah, and the reason I say that is because, you want to look at these teams, right? And you want to look at, all right, who's the number one option? Is it going to be pass heavy? Where are the targets going to go? And Juju, the reason why he's ranked so far down is because of what the offensive production last year, that was without Big Ben. So you have to look at it like the stock market. Juju is going to get a bunch of targets, number one targets. He's going to be a number one fantasy contributor this year, and I think he could be a wide receiver 1, in all honesty. And I think he's going to ball out this season. So him being at 38th, being around 3rd to 4th round, I think is an absolute steal for people. And I had a philosophy last year going in where I was going to go wide receiver heavy. I think I'm going to go in with that with the same type of aspect because the running back room is all messed up. I mean, as soon as you get past the top 5 guys, I mean, it's all over the place.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's why it's important where you're picking, especially if you're picking in the top 5. I think you almost have to pick a running back because there's so many wide receivers that can go up, and there's really only a handful of running backs that are going to produce. I don't get it.
Your finger was covering the speaker.
Totally.
Microphone.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. That was my first time. My first time talking on the phone. I just got here from 1992. No, but there's only a handful of running backs that you can actually trust that are elite and that are going to produce. That's last year I went very wide receiver heavy because I had late picks. It only really worked out in a league or two.
Because the reason why I say that is because you have Christian McCaffrey, you have Saquon, you have Zeke, Dalvin Cook.
It's top heavy.
And then Alvin Kamara at 10. And then right after that, Austin Eckler.
Right.
Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and then Joe Mixon. So that top 5, as soon as that's gone, boom, pleated out. I think they're spot on with that Eckler projection. You know, he did so well being the number 2, getting all of those production, getting all of those targets, and with Tyrod and Justin Herbert there, you know they're not going to be able to extend the ball down the field, so there's going to be a bunch of targets going to Austin Eckler. I think that is perfect for him.
Yeah, especially if they do end up rolling with Herbert out of the gate, because he's going to have to rely on the running game a lot, and he's going to have to rely on checkdowns. You know, I think that really it can only benefit Austin Eckler in this entire situation. I understand a lot of people might look at that and say, how is Nick Chubb as low as he is? And you got to remember, Kareem Hunt's going to be there the entire year this season, so they're going to be splitting some carries. And I do love Nick Chubb. I think he's very talented, and I think he could blow up and be one of the top, honestly, 3 or 4 backs in the NFL this year. But it's going to be tough, you know, with somebody like Kareem Hunt, who's as talented as he is, breathing down your neck and taking some of your touches.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to ask you, which one of these rookie running backs do you see making the biggest jump in fantasy, PPR speaking-wise? We have CEH, Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, J.K. Dobbins in Baltimore.
Yeah. So who do I think is going to have the best year?
Yeah, Antonio Gibson.
So obviously I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when talent meets opportunity, and especially in that system, yes, all day. But I also, 2 running backs not to sleep on. Jonathan Taylor is perfect for that Colts team. Like before the draft, like I've said, I didn't like him. I wanted to stay away from him because of his fumbling issues. If those can be corrected, he is talented as hell. He's only going to be good for a few years with the volume of carries that he got in college, but he's somebody to really look out for. And then J.K. Dobbins, if in that offense, he fits so perfectly. He's so naturally talented. If anything happens to Mark Ingram, he's going to be the feature back. Even regardless, he's going to get his touches. I think he's still draftable at some point. But if anything were to happen to Mark Ingram, or he just, who knows, maybe just comes in and outperforms him. He's just a big play waiting to happen. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to be somebody who could really put up some points and help some teams win some championships.
Yeah, and look, and then there's DeAndre Swift up at Detroit. We can't forget about him as well. Perfect. Look, I know Kerryon Johnson did really well last season, but look, that's
injured a lot.
It's not like he's a bona fide starter. You know what I mean? It's not like he's earned that spot. I mean, DeAndre Swift could come in, but for me personally, I think it's Zach Moss up in Buffalo.
I love Zach Moss.
He fits that system so well, and I was a Devin Singletary mark last year. I will admit that. I loved Devin Singletary. I drafted in a bunch of leagues. He paid huge dividends. But I think Zach Moss, this is just one of those scenarios where he's going to get it and not let go.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that he also, even if Devin Singletary is still their main guy, he complements Devin Singletary so well. Devin Singletary, the smaller pass-catching back, the speedier guy, and then Zach Moss comes in as the thunder to his lightning. I mean, that's a perfect running back tandem almost. You know, I love the way that they're set up. And then another person to watch. I mean, I know that they already have a starting running back, but AJ Dillon. If AJ Dillon gets the opportunity to show what he can do in Green Bay, he is a handful, and he's not going to be brought down very easily. Very reminiscent of a Derrick Henry or a Steven Jackson type running back.
Yeah, and I just really love that Buffalo running game. They know how to move the football up there, and I'm just thinking of a production-based. You know, Antonio Gibson, I know he's going to do really well for this Redskins offense. I know that for a fact. I just don't think the targets and all of the he's going to have the production based of how many targets he's going to have. Now with Zach Moss, I think it's the kind of system where they're going to give him the ball a buttload. Because, you know, you don't want to put the ball in Jonathan Allen's hands.
No, right. I mean, you're talking about Zach Moss, right?
Yeah. You know.
Okay, because you said Jonathan Allen. I got confused for a second. I was like, oh no.
No. Sorry, Allen up in fucking Buffalo, the quarterback.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, John Allen. Yeah, correct, Kyle. Good job, Josh Allen.
Did I say Jonathan Allen? Allen.
Yeah. I expect Josh Allen to take a pretty big step.
It's because all white people look alike.
We actually do. I kind of expect Josh Allen to take a pretty big step this year in year 3.
Well, that was where I was going to go to next, because I was going to ask you, how much of a step back do you think Stephon Diggs is going to be with Josh Allen throwing him the football?
I think it'll be a pretty significant step back. The only thing really going for him is that he is, without a doubt, 100% the number one target on that offense. But you see Kirk is a lot of people, for as much shit as people want to talk about Kirk has always been a very accurate thrower of the football. That's evidenced by his completion percentage when he was with the Redskins all the way through his years in Minnesota. But in Minnesota, it was always Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. It was always both. At least here in Buffalo, he's the bona fide number one. I know that people will say John Brown, but
Brown, he's not number one.
He's a journeyman.
Yeah, John Brown needs a number one to do well.
Exactly. He's a good number two, but he's not better than Stephon Diggs.
Right.
But I like Stephon Diggs, but Josh Allen is just I didn't even touch the speaker that time.
Oh, okay.
It must have just been a ghost. Josh Allen's just not nearly as accurate as Kirk Cousins is, so it might be a little bit tough for him.
And they don't throw the football that much. And so,
right.
The one thing, as much as you want to say about Kirk Cousins not being a good quarterback and not winning football games, he does give the wide receivers plenty of targets to where they're not upset or frustrated. They don't ever have to worry about that. Stephon Diggs now has to worry about that in Buffalo because they don't throw it that much, which is obviously a good thing. But I feel like it's just going to be one of those where Stephon Diggs is just not going to be utilized. It's going to end up just causing frustration. He's going to end up leaving.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that Buffalo was one of the worst possible destinations for him to go. But, hey, who knows? Maybe if Josh Allen takes the jump that some people expect him to in year 3, maybe him and Stephon Diggs will develop quite the chemistry and then be fantastic. But I don't really see that happening, even though I will say I do think that Josh Allen's going to be improved from last year in terms of his completion percentage and accuracy.
Now, based on this year alone, just this year, who do you think will be the best wide receiver in fantasy? Let's just say based off points, PPR format at the end of the year, we're going to put up all the points per reception and the yardage, touchdowns. Who do you think is going to be the best rookie wide receiver of this class?
Oh, the best rookie wide receiver.
Yeah.
See, that threw me for a loop.
Let me go down the list. We got Denzel Mims with the Jets. We have Jerry Jeudy with the Broncos. We have CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys. We have Michael Pittman with the Colts. We have Bryan Edwards with the Raiders. Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco.
49ers. Yeah. And there's also Henry Ruggs with the Raiders.
Yep. I know there's plenty. Who would you say is going to poised to have the best year for fantasy?
See, it's difficult. Now, I think that the person that is in the best offense is probably CeeDee Lamb. But is there enough balls to go around for him to really have that big of an impact? The same thing can be said for Jerry Jeudy out in Denver. I do, however, think that Jerry Jeudy is probably in one of the best positions, just because if you look at all the talent around him, they're so young, and I just think he's such a good route runner, and that wide receiver trio is so perfect. They all complement each other so well. You have the big, tall wide receiver in Cortland Sutton. You have the small speedster on the inside and KJ Hamler, and then you have somebody like Jerry Jeudy, who's just an excellent route runner, a technician. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Terry McLaurin. Yeah. And I really think that he could have a big year. But don't sleep on Denzel Mims either. I think Denzel Mims is going to be the guy. He's super talented, ran a 4.3, big guy, big catch radius. And if Sam Darnold can get it together, there's nobody in front of him that's stopping him from getting targets.
Yeah, because Jamison Crowder plays the slot, and then Robbie Anderson is the deep ball kind of thrower, which he left.
Carolina.
Yeah, he left. Yeah, so Denzel Mims now. And so now it's just only Jamison Crowder, which I think you're right. But if I'm going to go with anyone, I think it's Michael Pittman. And that's because Phillip Rivers doesn't know T.Y. Hilton. He doesn't know the wide receiving core. Michael Pittman almost just looks like a Vincent Jackson. He looks like that's
just about to say, like a Mike Williams, like a Vincent Jackson.
He fits that mold, and I feel like he is poised to have a very, very good year. And based off of production, I think he is poised to have the best year. Now, I will say that with a caveat, because he's 1A. 1B, I will say it's Brandon Ayuk, just because of San Francisco losing out on, my goodness, what's his name? The wide receiver just got hurt.
Henry Ruggs?
No, the 49ers wide receiver just got hurt.
I thought you were talking about the spot that they traded out of.
No. The 49ers wide receiver, the deep ball, Deebo Samuel just got hurt. So which means
did he just get hurt? I didn't even read.
So he's out at least I think 1 or 2 months. So which would mean that Brandon Ayuk has that slot spot. Emmanuel Sanders is not returning to the team. They need those targets to go to somebody, and I think that could be Brandon Ayuk and Kyle Shanahan's game, because you and I both know from watching Redskins games, Kyle Shanahan's offense gets wide receivers open all day long, and Brandon Ayuk, like Hall had said when Hall did his breakdown of him 2 months ago, he compared him to Deshaun Jackson. He compared him to Emmanuel Sanders, and that fits right in with me. I feel like those two guys, Michael Pittman 1A and what's his face?
Brandon Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk for 1B.
And I love the fit of Brandon Ayuk in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Him and Deebo Samuel are kind of similar wide receivers. And Kyle Shanahan's going to figure out a way to use them both no matter what, especially when Deebo Samuel returns. I mean, Deebo Samuel lined up everywhere last year. So Brandon Ayuk can go out there, and people have to still worry about Deebo Samuel. Ayuk is very talented, very versatile. I think I love him in that Kyle Shanahan offense.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan just is an offensive genius. He's going to find a way to get it done. Now, let's just talk about for a second. Do you think Dwayne Haskins is going to be startable for a 12-team league?
I mean, of course, I want to say yes, but I just think that right now there are better quarterbacks. This Dwayne Haskins had the potential to be startable, definitely. If you just look at what he did towards the end of last season, yeah, he played fantastic. He's putting in the work this offseason. He's going to be in a quarterback-friendly offense. He's going to be learning the offense from Kyle Allen, who knows it from his time in Carolina. Of course, him and Terry McLaurin are only going to grow. But is he better than that 10 to 12 quarterback range, where people would put Kirk Cousins and some of these guys? I don't think so, but he's definitely somebody that would warrant having, especially just in case he does blow up and you can just start him.
Yeah, it's always good to have. And the reason why I ask is I'm not sure, for fantasy owners, Dwayne Haskins is going to have the year that's going to be productive for them. I think Haskins is going to be one of those guys that's going to be on the bubble and that people are going to play based off matchup basis, going against the Giants.
There's an injury or a bye week.
Right, exactly.
And that's part of it, too. That doesn't mean that Dwayne Haskins might not be good next year. Look, you see quarterbacks that have good seasons that don't do that well in fantasy. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo last year.
We're just strictly talking about fantasy. It doesn't mean that the team's not going to do well or Dwayne's not going to do well.
It doesn't mean that Dwayne's not going to have a solid season or a very respectable season.
Right.
Garoppolo didn't put up shit until the 49ers to the Super Bowl. So that he did still a good year. Yeah,
because if Dwayne's not doing well in fantasy and we're still winning games, I mean, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
That's all that matters at all. Now, what was I going to – dude, I had a thought in my head and it completely – oh, did you see the video of Dallas Goedert getting knocked out?
Yes.
Oh,
first of all, what I want to know, first of all, that was a nasty sucker punch.
Yeah, that was like that. Like, oh, look, I hate Philly with a passion, but that pissed me off.
Same. That was disgusting. And I get it. You see somebody who's that size, 6'6", 260, built. You're gonna need to get a sucker punch in to have a chance. But that was gross. But the one thing I didn't understand is he said he was out having dinner with family in was it South Dakota or North Dakota bar at 1 a.m. I mean, just be honest. You're getting drunk about it with some friends, and that's okay. You're allowed to do that. You're an adult.
But that's my point is I don't even think he was with friends, dude, because if he had any friends there, as soon as he gets knocked out, nobody even goes after the dude.
He was out cold. So the one person went and tried to pick him up, make sure he was okay, bent down over him, which I get that, but that was scary looking. You hate to see anybody get knocked out like that. That's just with what we know about CTE. People can die from that these days. So people don't realize people die all the time from getting hit the sucker punch like that and whacking their head on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Because most of the time it's not from the hit of the actual punch. It's from the head hitting the ground. Yeah. And especially they're at a club they're not on carpet. The dude, he's not on grass. Yeah. The dude's landing on the ground. There was a good chance he could have busted his head open.
Oh my God, easily. And being that tall and falling that hard.
Big tree fall hard.
Much, yeah. I mean that's terrifying, man. He's lucky that he wasn't seriously hurt. I know he had to go to the hospital. He was knocked out, probably had a concussion, but he's lucky that it didn't get worse. He's lucky that his head didn't splat on the floor or something,
Because the one thing I'm wondering is dude, back in my day, if there was a fight about to go down, you had your boys, whatever, we're all standing around. if one of his boys throws or comes at our guy at any point,
Yeah,
it's game on. Everyone's in. Let's go. And I didn't see that. It blew my mind. Nobody jumped in. Like, nobody went after that guy. He just sucker punched Dallas Goedert and then got the hell out of there.
Yeah, and
he must have been a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, it's scary though, man. It's scary that stuff like that still happens and how serious something like that can be. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if that were to happen, I don't know anybody that wouldn't go after the dude who did that. But it's luckily the people didn't just fucking leave Dallas Goedert there to bleed out on the floor. I mean, they were there to kind of help him out. But what a bitch move, man. That just, it's one of those things where like sometimes, like I see it all the time DJing and like when I'm out at bars late at night, like people do some fucked up things to people. Like when they want to fight somebody, if somebody's mad enough and they want to hit somebody, they're going to hit them. And if that person just isn't paying attention, doesn't have their head on a swivel, they're going to get seriously hurt. And it's sick. It's one of those things where when you see it happen, like you just feel almost like sick to your stomach, like your heart, you're like, oh God, that sucks.
I know. I don't want to talk about it, but I saw that video from Brooklyn, that dude changing his tire. And the dude walks up right behind him and just shoots him in the head and then shoots him again in the head and then walks away.
When did that happen?
This video got released, I think last week or a couple days ago. I hate the video, dude. It destroys me.
Yeah, I don't want to watch that.
It's like one of those like ring security things where it's like out front of somebody's house in Brooklyn. So like it's showing the street because obviously I live on the street. And the guy is like working on his front right tire on the sidewalk. Like he's sitting on a bucket and he's like working on the tire. Oh, man. You're too hot, dude.
Huh? Oh, yeah. I can hear it. Looks fun. Oh. Okay. All right. We'll go back.
You're too hot, dude. You made that whole house go off.
Yeah. No, dude, I don't want to see that video. That's one time when I was younger, my brother thought, back when like LimeWire was a thing, my brother thought that he was being all tight and illegally downloading that movie House of a Thousand Corpses.
The Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah, we ripped it and we watched it, and it wasn't. It was a snuff film of these Russian guys cutting off some dude's head in the woods, and I will never forget that. I was like 12, 13 watching it, and I was just like, what? Is this the movie? I was like, is this the movie? I don't remember seeing any of this in the previews. And it wasn't. Then it ended. And my brother was like, I'm sorry about that. And I was like, what the fuck, man? I was so messed up.
Dude, that is brutal. Because I hate seeing those type of videos, dude. That just absolutely destroys me.
But sometimes it's kind of hot.
No, it's not. Shut up.
It's nothing.
Absolutely not. Do you have anything else for tonight? I was going to say something. And then we started talking about that, and I completely lost base.
Well, we were talking about snuff films, somebody getting shot in the head.
No,
Dallas Goedert getting knocked out.
That's just such a weird circumstance because, like, it was weird to me that he had nobody there, you know?
Yeah.
And it just sucks that like, all we see is this guy come out of nowhere, hit him, and then leave. But they did lock him up.
Oh, they did? Good.
Mm-hmm.
They found the dude. It just sucks that, like, I feel like if you're an athlete or, like, a football player, you can't do anything. Remember LeVar was riding his motorcycle, got hurt, and, like, he had to sign a contract saying he wouldn't ride his motorcycle. Ben Roethlisberger drove into the side of a pickup truck and left his face on it, and he was not supposed to ride motorcycles. Ben Roethlisberger went into a bathroom with a girl. You're not supposed to do that. And then, like, now you can't even just go to a bar and have some drinks without the fear of getting hurt.
Yeah, because the whole thing was that Ben Roethlisberger, like, chased that girl around the bathroom with his dick out or something.
Yeah, something like that. Look who it is.
Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Hall.
We were just talking about that time Ben Roethlisberger drove his motorcycle into the back of a pickup truck and left his face there. Then we're talking about who would you rather go to the bathroom with, Ben Roethlisberger or Dwayne Haskins? If you were...
I'm going to go clearly Dwayne. I mean, I don't know.
They call him Big Ben for a reason, right?
I don't know. I feel like I feel like if you tell Ben no, he's just gonna whip it out for a helicopter and like,
It doesn't matter. He doesn't care.
But glad that Hall was able to finally join us. I know that he had some family matters to go over. But Hall, before we end today's podcast, I know you're coming on pretty late, but
the TV show Family Matters, he was reviewing it.
I asked Reed his input on this because you fans yourself, you love wide receivers. Which one of the rookie wide receivers do you think in fantasy? Let's just go off PPR formats. At the end of the year, we're just going to chalk up the fantasy points. Who has the most fantasy points on the rookie wide receivers? Who would you pick? Denzel Mims, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Pittman, Bryan Edwards, Brandon Ayuk, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Yeager?
It's a tough one.
Denzel Mims is with the Jets. Jerry Judy's with the Broncos.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one because there's a lot of good receivers on there, obviously. If I would have to go with the most points, I would honestly maybe go – you know what? I'll go Henry Ruggs for the simple fact that he's that home run hitter. He's a big play guy that's 4.2 speed. I think obviously everyone knows John Gruden is a big play action and a throw the ball deep kind of guy. So I can definitely see Henry Ruggs racking up a lot of touchdowns this year. A lot of 30, 40, 50-plus yard touchdowns, which would give him close to 1,000 yards, maybe even over 1,000 yards, depending.
I'm surprised you didn't go with the Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, that was going to be my second pick, just because the whole Deebo Samuel's injury.
So I know Hall's trying to be secretive. He's trying to keep Brandon Ayuk in his back pocket. He doesn't want to tip anybody off.
That's what he does. Yeah, he's not trying to let anybody know.
Dude, we do it all the time.
That one gift, like.
Dude, so many times me and Hall would be driving into work in the truck and we would talk about somebody and I'd be like, all right, but you can't draft him though. If he comes up, you can't draft him. And Brandon Ayuk is one of those guys.
Yeah, literally, it would be workout where we'd always be around the same draft pick too. So I'd always look at him
I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna pick him, but I can't.
The one thing about Brandon Ayuk is I don't trust any wide receiver that's last name is the same noise that Goofy makes. I think I said that one before. I think I said that one. Oh, you? But I still think it's a funny joke. It's great material.
Definitely look out for Jerry Jeudy as well. I don't know if anyone's seen that workout he was doing, but his footwork was looking kind of crazy in that workout. And obviously he's the most polished route runner of the whole group. The opposite Courtney Sutton, and they got Hamlin as well in the slot.
And they have a perfect wide receiver core. They all complement each other so well. Like I said earlier, you have the slot guy in Hamler, you have the big tall guy in Courtney Sutton, and then you have the excellent route runner in Jerry Jeudy. So and
then I've been hyping up Drew Lock the whole offseason, so you better stay.
Yeah, I don't want to say Jerry Judy's going to have the career as this guy, but I would say his kind of game, his body shape is kind of like Jerry Rice when you think about the kind of offense putting together, like you said, Reed, where Jerry Judy's kind of the in between of Hamler and Sutton. Sutton's the bigger wide receiver, the deep threat, tall guy. Hamler's that slot guy, and it's almost like Jerry Jeudy is the meat in the medium, just good hands, fast, and a great route runner. And I think that he could do really well this season. I think you're right, Hall.
Yeah, like I said earlier, Jerry Jeudy really reminds me actually a lot of Terry McLaurin. Just at similar size, they're both faster, they're both excellent with their feet, they're excellent route runners. I really could see him having a Terry McLaurin style to his game.
Look, and then another receiver, honestly, could be Michael Pittman. Honestly,
that's who Kyle said.
That was my pick, yeah.
Obviously T.Y. Hilton, they got the tight end to go with it. They're going to have the running game with Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, Frank Reich is a huge, considered a QB guru, one of those smart offensive minds, and a big play action guy once again. So look for Michael Pittman. Obviously, I don't know. I was listening earlier, but clearly we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and so let me ask. But we also did the running back. So while we here, look, I wish we could just record the whole podcast again right now because Hall just makes the show. But let me ask you the running backs. Which one of the running backs do you see? We'll put the same kind of category, PPR format, everything involved. Which one of the rookie running backs do you see being the biggest contributor for fantasy football owners? CEH with Kansas City, Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis, Zach Moss in Buffalo, Antonio Gibson with the Redskins, DeAndre Swift with the Lions, or J.K. Dobbins with the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, my wishful thinking would obviously be Gibson because that would just mean he would ball out, and that would mean the rest of his offense would be humming this year. But I think he'll be kind of middle of the pack as far as rookies go. But I'm gonna say right in Indianapolis. I'll go with Jonathan Taylor. I just think that he's conditioned to like kind of take the between 25 to 30 carries a game. I think in the beginning it'll be Marlon Mack's team because the whole like pandemic thing and he got to get acclimated. But by like week 5, 6, it'll be Jonathan Taylor's team. The offense is gonna run through him again. Frank Reich, a big play action kind of guy. Phillip Rivers thrives off play action fake and play action downfield passing. And so obviously with the whole play action fake, you got to get the run game going first. And I think Jonathan Taylor's due for well over 1,000 yards. I'd probably go 6 touchdowns, and I think he's going to lead rookies as far as running backs fantasy wise.
Yeah,
do you guys think that in Frank Reich's family, if I was him personally, I would name my son Frank Reich, so he'd be Frank Reich the second, and then I would make him name his son Frank Reich, so he'd be Frank Reich the third, so that way he'd be the third Reich. It took a while, but if you stuck with me, it hit home.
I was
following those breadcrumbs.
Yeah, right. You're absolutely right. And then the last thing I wanted to end today with was that the Redskins retired Bobby Mitchell's number. Finally, and this is right after the George Preston Marshall statue got taken away. So, Hall, let me ask your opinion on this. It's the second ever number that's been legitimately retired for the Redskins. So let me ask you, what do you think this is right? Do you like it? Is it too late, too early? What do you think?
Well, a lot of people obviously would say it's too late because he's already passed away. I think it was a month or so ago, 2 months maybe, something like that. But I mean, this is one of those things that like I don't know why the Redskins don't retire more numbers because
Darryl Green should be. I know it's like considered. They don't give out 28. They don't give out 21. Why don't you just retire it?
That's my whole point. Just put them up in the rafters, and don't ever have like even there was a whole controversy between can Landon Collins wear 21? Is that even like appropriate? So like let's just cut that whole conversation out. Retire the great Redskins numbers. Put them in the rafters. But as far as just him as a player, obviously. I've never even seen I've seen a couple of Bob Mitchell highlights here and there. But for him to go 1,400 yards receiving back in the 60s, whenever like clearly it was a straight about power run game back then, is amazing. And obviously he was a freak athlete. Went from running back to receiver. Hopefully like Gibson can make that transition. And just one of the first black player to be on the Redskins, which is a huge deal. So just overall, just a great player, a great Redskins.
DC legend.
DC legend, a great Redskins alumni, Hall of Famer, well deserved, obviously. And I'm glad they did it finally.
Now I will say though, the 21, like I want it retired, but at the same time, I would love to see it become like a thing where like season ticket holders like can vote for defensive player to wear 21. Like either for the season or like for the game, based like on how well like if they epitomize what we believe to be like the Sean Taylor-esque type of guy.
Kind of like the number 7 for DBs at LSU, or the number 10 for linebackers at USC or something.
Right.
I mean, kind of like the number 23 right now for the Redskins, where D Hall passing down to Dunbar.
Right.
I mean, Dunbar was supposed to wear it for a while, passing down to the next person.
Kendall Fuller now.
Kendall Fuller's wearing it now.
Kendall Fuller now,
It sucks because I kind of wanted Fuller to go back to 29 because I hate a running back in 29. I don't know why, but I wish Darius Geis would change his goddamn number. Change your number, Darius Geis.
If you watch this or hear this.
Reed has so many issues with Darius Geis.
Yeah, primarily that you're always injured. Not the gay
thing. Oh, my God.
Cool
Come on.
Very color.
Poor Darius. Leave Darius alone. Darius is working hard.
I know he's doing fantastic. He's going to be an excellent player.
Right, he's doing great. But, hey, to end this show, oh, my God. To end the show, I forgot. So, Mike, I sent in a Pro Football Focus thing earlier, so let me put this here and put this on the screen. Pro Football Focus put out a pick a team kind of teaser here online earlier, and I kind of picked it apart. I wanted to ask you guys your opinions on this. So, Hall, if you could pull up that text I sent you where it's a Pro Football Focus and it's pick a team. So they have there's 4 teams altogether, and each team has a QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end. Team number 1 is Russell Wilson, Kenyon Drake, Leonard Fournette, Odell Beckham, Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton, and Travis Kelce. Team 2 is Carson Wentz, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, Julian Edelman, and Zach Ertz. Team 3 is Deshaun Watson, McCaffrey, Mostert, Hopkins, Ridley, Ayuk, and Ingram at tight end. And then to end it off, Team 4 is Matt Stafford, Miles Sanders, Todd Gurley, Kenny Galladay, Mike Evans, McLaurin, and Hayden Hurst. So, Reed, let me go to you. If you were to pick a team here, which one would you pick?
I'm gonna. I mean, I know we talked about this earlier, Kyle. I'm personally, I would go with Team 3, with Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey, Mostert. I know that there's not like I like to usually have my running backs kind of be like complement each other well. McCaffrey and Mostert don't necessarily, but at the same time, that could be a good thing. Maybe you can keep the same thing going on offense. But then throw into DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Ayuk, and Evan Ingram. I just think that Team 3 is probably the best overall, but close as. Number 1 is also pretty good if you take away the overrated running backs that they have, because Wilson throwing to Odell, Keenan Allen, Kelsey, and Cortland Sutton's pretty good. Team 2 has a lot of slot receivers.
Yeah, but I'm going to go with Team 4 with Matt Stafford there, Miles Sanders, Todd Gurley. With the wide receivers there, Kenny Galladay, Mike Evans, and Terry McLaurin. Ended off with Hayden Hurst. The tight end doesn't need to blow you away. Hayden Hurst is a good blocker, and he catches the football. And then those wide receivers are just absolutely insane. So I think number 4 is the team because Mike Reed already took 3.
Yeah, I wish I could pick like a different team with like 1 and 2, but I'm gonna have to go with 3 just because.
I mean, McCaffrey and Hopkins being on the same list is just disgusting. Like
with Deshaun Watson.
Exactly. Those two alone with Deshaun Watson, and then you throw Mostert in there, who's due for like a 20, 30, 40-point game, maybe twice a month, if that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
they should have switched Watson and Stafford. So Stafford should have been on that list.
That would have made it a little bit more even, exactly, yeah. And then you want to throw in Evan Ingram in there. I mean, whenever he's healthy, he's not really healthy a lot, but when he is healthy, he's a top 10 tight end. So,
but just think about that with Hopkins and Ridley on the outside, then Ayuk on the inside at slot, just tearing people up.
I was going to say Ayuk in the slot, exactly. Like, I mean, that's especially in PPR, like, that's 100+ every week almost.
Yeah, that
Team 2 though.
That
Team 2 does
punch.
have 2 white wide receivers.
That's
Cup and Julian Edelman.
That's why nobody picked them.
Yeah, but slot guys.
That's Bill Belichick's the only person that would pick that team.
If you want to win the Super Bowl, pick that team.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you say George Preston Marshall? He would take that one.
Yeah, he would. He would take that one.
Yeah, let me get a Carson Wentz, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Julian Edelman, Travis Kelce.
It's so true.
Peyton
I
Hill.
don't even know if he would take Travis Kelce. I don't know. He might be a little.
No. They'd probably take George Kittle. George Kittle, for as tight as he is, he looks like he has so much white trash on him.
Dude, he does look like he would boof some beer bongs, dude.
Oh yeah, dude. Totally.
He's definitely a blood
Monday Night Raw and stuff.
Yeah, he's a blood boofer, definitely.
Yeah, oh yeah,
absolutely.
I think he likes ICP. I think he's a juggler.
Juggler.
Seriously, I think I read that.
All right, everyone, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in for us. Make sure you tune in on Thursday. We are joined by Wale, the host of the Urban Sports Scene. He does a great podcast that focuses on football, on basketball, on boxing. It's all DC sports. We can't wait to bring him on. He's very good. His show is also live. So a lot of credit to Wole because I know how incredibly hard that is. So make sure you guys tune in with us on Thursday. We're going to have a great show lined up for you. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall. Sorry I was late.
And I was diagnosed with clinical depression today.
Self-diagnosed.
Oh.
It's because Halls wasn't here. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Go follow us on iTunes and subscribe on iTunes and rate us. Follow us on YouTube and subscribe on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We'll see you guys next week on Thursday. Make sure you tune in. Redskins football. Woo!
I will see you there. I will see you at another time.
Woo!
Audio Jungle.